Alright, so our math lesson today for Wednesday, April 8th is going to be Chapter 11, Lesson 2. And this is Combine Three-Dimensional Shapes. So, again, if you're able to find objects at home that would look like those shapes, then that would be beneficial for this, just so you can see things. Like a can out of your cabinet is a cylinder. So if I take one cylinder, and a Pringles can would be another cylinder, and if I stack those up together, you can make another shape. It is a longer cylinder, but you can use that to actually see what these shapes would look like. Or if you have something in the shape of a cone and a cylinder and you stack those together, you are making a new 3D shape. Same for if you have a block and you add a rectangular prism onto that, or if you stack a sphere on top of a cylinder, you're going to see different shapes. So, using objects from your house like a ball, that would also be a sphere. There's little toy boxes that would be like a cube, or if you have blocks that you use to build with. A tissue box would be a rectangular prism. A Pop-Tart box would be a rectangular prism. Or even a cereal box. That would also be a rectangular prism. So you can use those to stack and build and make new shapes if you would like. So that's what we're going to do today. We are going to use our 3D shapes to combine together to make a new shape. So trace and draw the new shape, and then write the name of that new shape. So if Mandy has two, these aren't the same size, but if she had two cylinders and she stacked them on top of each other, so down here would be like if you got two cans, the same can out of your cabinet, like two cans of corn, and you stacked them on top of each other. They're both cylinders on their own, but then it's just going to be a longer cylinder if you stack them. So Carl has two blocks. So if you had two of these items that were about the same size and you stacked them, this is no longer a cube. So by itself, this is a cube and this is a cube. But when you stack them together, because it's long now, this is going to be a rectangular prism. So trace those two cubes to show how once they're together, they would be a rectangular prism. Alright, on the next page, it says model and draw. You can put shapes together to make a new shape. So this is where it's showing you a cube and a rectangular prism, which would be just like getting this cube and this rectangular prism, or even this rectangular prism. And you can build and make different kinds of shapes. You could get a rectangular prism like this and stack it, and you're gonna make, you can make all kinds of new shapes. So this is like blocks when you're playing in the block center or something like that, with Legos. All of those would be great for practicing with the different cubes and rectangular prisms. I love this example just because they fit perfectly together, and it's a cylinder and a cone, and it makes a whole new shape. It kind of looks like a round house with a really steep roof. So same if we did that with this cylinder. If you were to take the pyramid that we talked about and you put it with a cube, that kind of looks like the shape of a house too. So just taking those different 3D shapes and combining them. So on the bottom, what you're doing is looking at the two shapes that they give you and what could you make out of those shapes. So if you have a cylinder and a cube, could you make a rectangular prism, or would you make this shape that also has a cylinder and a cube? So we definitely couldn't make this because we don't have that second rectangular prism there. So we would need the one that actually has the cylinder and the cube being used. So you're going to circle which one you could actually make. So on this one you have a rectangular prism and a cylinder. In this picture there's a cone, but we didn't have a cone over here, so we're not going to be able to make this shape. But here is the rectangular prism and here is the cylinder. So we would be able to make that. And finally we have a cone and a rectangular prism. So here's a cone with a rectangular prism, or a rectangular prism with a cylinder, which we didn't have. So this would be the shape that we could make out of these two 3D shapes. So on the back, you're doing more of that same exact thing, looking at the two shapes they give you and deciding what could you actually make out of those two shapes and circle the picture. So you're going to do that for numbers 4 through 8. And then on the back, you're circling the shapes that you would most likely use to make an ice cream cone, like this. Circle the ways that make the same shape. So what are the different ways you could make the same shape? And the last one, combine a rectangular prism and a cone and choose all the new shapes that you could make using those two. So parents, I will put the answer key to this up on Class Dojo, and if you have any other questions, please let me know.